Welcome, everyone, to the Hillsborough Township Planning Board regular meeting of Thursday, January 11th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please? Oh, wait, check that.
You forgot what you're doing?
I haven't done this whole year. There goes bad New Year's jokes. Please join me in a salute to the flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Please be advised this meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Publics Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, otherwise known as Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2024 annual meeting schedule has been provided to the officially designated newspapers, to the township clerk, posted on the township website, and available here at the Hillsborough Township Municipal Complex. In addition, application documents and plans have been made available to the town on the township civic clerk website at least 10 days in advance of this meeting, and complete application files are available in the Planning and Zoning Department for inspection in accordance with the open public meeting notice. Now may I have a roll call of board members and professionals, but my draft agenda doesn't have it, but at least I remembered.
Ms. Smith and Mr. Delcor are absent. Committeeman Lapani?
Here.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ciccarelli?
Here.
Mr. Scobo?
Here.
Mr. Radowitz?
Here.
Vice Chair Peason?
Here.
Chair Sirachi?
Here.
Mr. Coyce? Here. Mr. Bernstein?
Here.
Mr. Mayhew?
Here.
And myself and the videographer are here.
Is that the, thank you. Okay, we do not have any meeting minutes for considerations. We do have a couple of resolutions. First one is Toll Brothers, file number 21-PB-10-S/MS/SP for an extension.
The eligible members, Mr. Chairman, are yourself, the Vice Chair, the Deputy Mayor, the Committeeman, and Mr. Wagner.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Vice Chair Peason?
Yes.
Chair Sirachi?
Yes. Next is a resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Hillsborough adopting a climate change-related hazard vulnerability assessment to the land use elements of the Township of Hillsborough's master plan. I believe that
This is a
was presented last
memorialization,
week.
folks, of the action the board took at the December 14th meeting.
Correct.
The eligible members are yourself, the Deputy Mayor, the Committeeman, Mr. Wagner, Mr. Scobo, and Mr. Radowitz.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Scobo?
Yes.
Mr. Radowitz?
Yes.
Chair Sirachi?
Yes. We are moving on. We do have some planning board business. First is the draft of the 2023 Planning Board Annual Report. Mr. Coyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The report that's been prepared shows the actions taken by the board from the prior year. If the board has any recommendations to make any edits, but it's as presented for the board to consider.
Thank you. Anyone at the dais have any recommendations for edits? Okay. Mr. Bernstein, we don't have to take any formal action at this.
Yes, you do. You
We
need
do?
to approve the report and have Mr. Coyce then file it with the appropriate party, which
Okay.
would be the township clerk, among others.
Okay, so if there are no recommended edits or requested changes, may I have a motion to approve the 2023 Planning Board Annual Report as is, and to ask Mr. Coyce to formalize?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani.
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chicarelli.
Yes.
Mr. Scobo.
Yes.
Mr. Radowitz.
Yes.
Vice Chair Peason.
Yes.
Chair Quadracci.
Yes. Next up, we have the first of, I believe, two presentations, I'll just call it for that, from the Hillsborough Township Board of Education. So if there's any representative, come on up. You can pick either side. I don't think there's going to be any objectors on this. So. So I believe the first item is related to Sunnymead Elementary School for a pavilion. And just for the record, the file number is 23-PB-20-INF. Scores, you just want to do a quick intro while...
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Under NJSA 40:55D-31 and 18A:18A-16, it is required that school district projects be submitted to the local planning board for courtesy review. Any recommendations by the board are technically non-binding, but it does give an opportunity for the board to consider different things that could occur. Other than that, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Why don't you let him play with them? Right now, he's having so much fun. The question is, where do we want?
Towards the camera, yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
Who's going to be testifying, if any?
I will.
Okay, Michael.
I'm just going to swear you in, all right? If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Elio Corey.
Can you spell it?
ELIOQORRI.
Thank you.
Is this on?
You got a green dot on, or light on?
The green light is on, but it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like it's on.
Just gotta get close.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us on tonight. My name is Elio Corey from Land Associates. Congratulations to everybody for their appointments. The first project that we're going to talk about is regarding the Sunnymead Elementary School for a pavilion. The proposal features the construction of an open-air pavilion that is going to be 30-foot wide, 40-foot long, and 10-foot, 4 inches high. A 4-inch concrete slab on grade is proposed that will surround the pavilion, and it'll be 3 feet on addition to each side. So essentially, the dimensions of the slab will be 36 feet wide, 46 feet long. The pavilion will be located approximately 125 feet to the rear of the school and about 11 and a half feet to the closest point to the fence line located to the rear. No utilities will be provided to the pavilion, meaning lighting or any sort of other utilities. And the area of disturbance is approximately 1,656 square feet. Any questions? It's a very minor scale project, just a simple pavilion.
I'm hiding behind the sign here, so I'll just go ahead. Can you tell me if they're planning any utilities or anything that are on the pavilion, or is it just no lights or outlets or electricity or plumbing?
No utilities at all.
Okay.
Is there anything currently in that area?
No.
That needs to be removed?
There's some railroad ties located approximately 20 feet away, but there's nothing there. It's all grass at the moment. Yes.
Any comments from the board, from the dais? Anything from the professionals? Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The plan notes that there's potential wetlands nearby. Are you going to obtain an LOI?
We do not have, we have not obtained a LOI for that. Those wetlands are from the national inventory. We have not received any requests to do any delineation back there.
Keep going. I'm getting a look, so
Well,
what's your, again, we're doing non-binding recommendations, so.
if it's the board's pleasure, I think it may be worth asking for an LOI. I don't know how accurate
It's from the inventory.
correct, and just from my experience, they can vary.
Understood.
That would be my suggestion.
Of course, any?
I have nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Did we request an LOI when Sunnymead did the expansion to the parking lot, the last project they were here for? I don't recall. It was probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but, they paid us the courtesy, came before us, and did implement a couple of our recommendations, but I don't remember if an LOI was involved on that side of the school.
I can certainly look into it. Unfortunately, it predates me, so,
Right.
but I can certainly look into it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if it helps, I wouldn't expect the applicant or the school board to go through the trouble of doing an LOI for the full property. We're just talking in the area of the
Mhm.
construction.
Right, I was referring just whether the process, that was part of the process or not. It was probably the same situation then. Because I think on the one side, they had some wetlands or something on,
Right.
I don't know if it's the north side of the school. So.
Okay.
All right,
Understood.
thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I do have an additional question for the applicant. Could you describe the area of currently what it's used for, where the pavilion's being planned?
It's just
Could you
grass-
describe it?
It's just a grassed area. Children could certainly go out there and play, but
Is it
there's-
currently maintained? Can you just give a little bit more description of the area, what it's adjacent to?
Sure. So there's the area is a grassed area. It's maintained by the school, so it's properly kept. The grass is not overgrown or anything. It's currently located to a little area, play area, that has some railroad ties. It's about 20 feet to the south of that area. So it's just a lawn for the school.
And is it currently an area that children have access to or currently walk through?
It's located quite to the back of the school. Is it okay if I ask if children use that area?
Why don't we have them sworn in?
Essentially, children can run around back there, but that's about it. It's located quite back from the school, about 125 feet from the rear of the school.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no additional questions from the dais, a motion to open the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, if there's anyone from the public that would like to ask this witness, come on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, we haven't talked to you all year.
Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. Just two quick questions. What's the proposed use for it, and is there any, it's pretty far back from the school, is there going to be a path or anything going to it? Thank you.
Sure. The proposed use is essentially just for shelter. If there's children out there playing and it starts drizzling, they could just go underneath and get some cover. If it's hot during the summertime or during the springtime, and when school starts, they could go under there and get some shade underneath from the sun. There's no path proposed from the school. It's all a grassed area, so folks would just have to walk on the grass.
Any other comments or questions of this witness? Okay. Seeing none, may I have motion to close the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Should we just go to the next one, or?
Before we go to the next one, does the board have any recommendations other than Mr. Mayhew's suggestion that the board look into an LOI for this application? Obviously, it is still subject to Commissioner of Education's review and approval.
I have none.
Nope.
So do we need to make a,
Motion and a second.
Motion.
Yep.
okay. May I have a motion for non-binding recommendation as per Mr. Mayhew's
I'll make the
comments?
motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, any additional comments from dais? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani.
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Mr. Scobah.
Yes.
Mr. Radowitz.
Yes.
Vice Chair Peason.
Yes.
Chair Sirachi.
Yes. And continuing with the Hillsborough Township Board of Ed, next item is for Triangle Elementary School, a playground extension, and just for the record, the file number is 23-PB-21-INF. And just remember, you're still under oath.
Yes, thank you so much. This proposal features a 1,600 square foot extension to the existing playground located to the rear, which is the east side of the Triangle Middle School. The proposed extension will also have a wood chip playground similar to the existing playground area located adjacent to the playground. A 5-foot concrete walkway will be extended from the existing asphalt path to the rear of the school, right up to the proposed addition. That area will be about 750 square feet of concrete. The playground extension and the concrete walkway will be ADA accessible, as they will have slopes under 2%. And approximately 75 feet of railroad ties will be used around the existing playground and the proposed playground, just to enclose the play area. The total disturbance is approximately 2,360 square feet.
Okay.
Similar to the last project, it's a fairly minor project, so not a whole lot to explain on this one.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Mayhew, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two comments. The first is there's a Roysport tributary running along this property. I would suggest that the Hillsborough Stream Corridor buffer be shown. The work proposed appears to be out of the buffer, but I think it wouldn't hurt to put the buffer on the drawings for future reference for the school. The second is to help mitigate for the impervious cover proposed. I would suggest that the sub-base be scarified prior to placing the wood mulch play area. And that'll help promote infiltration of runoff into the playground area.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Coyce?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Board members?
Behind the sign here again, are you, I can't tell from the plans, are you proposing any kind of new infrastructure like jungle gyms or any of that kind of stuff on this playground, or just?
Yes, there's one playground, two playground equipment that we're proposing on there. I could certainly bring you a plan a little bit closer so you could see exactly what we're proposing on there.
Well, I'm just bringing to your attention that, because there was a confusion the last time we had worked on, it is subject to inspections by our building code if you're doing any kind of footings and stuff like that, so just be cognizant of your contractor getting the appropriate inspections as you go along.
Understood. Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Mr. Bernstein? Okay. May I have a motion to open to public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, if there's anyone from the public that would like to question this witness on this project and this testimony, please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Maria Janusik, 720 East Freck Avenue, Manville, New Jersey. I'm also a Hillsborough Township property owner, Block 86, Lot 3, 2155 Camp Lane Road. Was there information provided that there's wetlands or a stream or something on this property?
No, not anywhere near this project.
No. But there needs to be something done in regard to the impervious cover, because how much impervious cover is there going to be? 750 square feet or more?
Correct, 750
750
square feet.
feet. Does that area have issues with flooding?
Not that I'm aware of.
So that was never looked into, because there's wetlands in that area and stuff, so you have not looked into whether or not there's issues with flooding?
For a project of this size, the town code and the New Jersey stormwater regulations, this does not fall into, it's not considered a major development. Thus, we're not required to do any stormwater control on this project.
Okay, so even if there's flooding, that's not your problem?
No, not necessarily. It's just that this project will not produce any sort of stormwater control that is significant enough to cause any flooding.
Okay, so what you're saying right now is that there's going to be impervious surface of 750 square feet?
Correct.
Not more than that?
750 square feet for the concrete walkway.
Any other impervious?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close public?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So may I have a non-binding recommendation, motion for Mr. Mayhew's comments and recommendations that he had made?
So moved. So moved.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Committeeman Lapani?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Scobo?
Yes.
Mr. Radowitz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Peason?
Yes.
Mayor Sarachi?
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much. Have a good night.
Two.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, we do not have consideration of ordinances. So next up is business from the floor for matters that are not on this evening's agenda. So if there's any comments from the public, please feel free to come up. As has been in the past, please refrain from any comments directly or indirectly involving warehouses. And also, please keep the comments to 5 minutes.
Maria Janusik, 720 East Freck Avenue, Manville. Last year in, I believe it was October, November, the Hillsborough Township Committee approved the purchase of 2 properties owned by JMJ4 ABEEL LLC. These properties had been applications before this planning board. Once the township committee approved purchasing it, were the applications for this from this developer withdrawn from the planning board?
I would expect, since they would no longer be in standing.
I'm sorry, what?
I would expect them to be withdrawn because they would no longer have standing.
Does anyone know if they were?
They haven't been because the matter has not been concluded. Until the matter is concluded, the applications are still on the board's agenda, but no action has been taken pending the outcome of the township committee actions related to the 2 properties.
And that means what? It was approved, so it's just, you have to wait until the actual sale is finalized and the money is given to the property owner before the applications are going to be withdrawn?
I believe that there are contracts that still have to be signed, and I'm assuming part and parcel of that is the issue. But at the moment, these applications are still there, but they are not moving forward, and they are not currently scheduled to appear before the board, I think, until the end of March, at the time in which their time of decision rule expires. So
What will expire?
The time of decision
Time
for
of
the
decision will expire
applications.
in March?
Correct.
And what's the anticipated time of the closing of
That's
this
township
purchase?
committee business. I would not know that.
All right,
Mr.
so-
Chairman, if I may, So currently, the 303 Emma Road and 1170 Millstone River Road would be tentatively scheduled for the February 8th, 2024 meeting. They have a TOD, time of decision, of March 1st, and that's the reason why they're tentatively scheduled for February 8th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so if they're scheduled for February, then they can get an extended time of decision.
Yeah, if action isn't taken in terms of the acquisition being complete, there would be an extension to the time of decision, and then be moved to another date, and similar to the process that we already did previously with putting these applications where they are now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to this evening's public hearing. And everyone can come on up.
And, Mr. Chairman, while they're
Sure.
doing that, I need to continue my recusal for this matter.
Okay, thanks. You
Winner.
too.
Mr. Chairman, can we take about a couple of minutes? I have a question for Mr. Coyce that I need an answer to.
Okay, how much? 5 minutes? 10?
7:45.
No, I'm looking at that clock there.
7:45.
Okay, we're going to take a brief recess until 7:45 according to the clock on the dais. Okay, we're back in session. So the application for this evening, Homestead Road LLC, file number 21-PB-25-MS/MSPV with a time of decision of February 1st of this year. And let's see, we are continuing this application from December 14th of last year without further notice. And I'm just going to turn it over to,
Why don't we get, Mr. Chairman, why don't we ask for appearances from the applicant's counsel and objector's counsel, then I have a housekeeping matter, and then we can go from there.
okay, Mr. Giannetti.
Yes, good evening and Happy New Year, Chairman, members of the board. Craig Giannetti of the law firm Dave Pitney on behalf of the applicant, Homestead Road LLC.
You guys can go in any order.
Okay. Brian Tarantino representing the SWAT Community Group, and congratulations to you guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Scott Gross, White Meadow Road.
John Lanahan, objector number 4. Congratulations as well, and happy 2024.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, objector number 1, Mike Pissarro from the Watershed Institute.
Happy New Year. Lucy Sandler representing the Sauerland Conservancy. I'm an objector. I forgot which number. I'm sorry.
Probably number 5, I'm going to guess. So we have a full house tonight. So. Mr. Bernstein, housekeeping.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I'd like to indicate that we have received a certification by absent board member, examination of record eligibility to vote, signed by the now Vice Chairman, Mr. Robert Peason, relative to he has reviewed the video recording of September 14th, 2023, and the December 14th, 2023, which makes him eligible to participate in this evening's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, we were at was the examination by Mr. Tarantino of Mr. Dean.
Correct.
Excuse me, can I just have a question before you start? At the last meeting, which I was absent, but I watched the video, there was an issue at the beginning of the meeting to talk about standing. And I just have a question. I just want some clarity on the standing issue. My understanding is that, and I'm not getting into the lawsuits, just so to tee it up, I don't care, except that the one lawsuit involving Enhanced Acquisitions, they signed a contract in July 2021. They then Homestead Road LLC files the application on December 2021. Lawsuit gets filed in November 2023. Enhanced is shown as the contract purchaser. I believe at the last meeting, there was testimony from, or Mr. Giannetti made a statement that he had checked with his client and that the contract remained unchanged. from a standing perspective, why wouldn't enhanced be on the application and not homestead? Because doesn't under the MLUL, the applicant or developer need to have some sort of purchase rights for the property? What am I missing?
Mr. Giannetti?
Sure. And my understanding is Enhanced Acquisitions is the affiliate of Homestead Road LLC. They have an interest in the property because of that. They have the owner's consent for filing this application. And to be clear, it was not my client that was represented that everything was okay with the litigation and it was resolved. It was the seller who made the representation with respect to that.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So from a standing perspective, because Homestead has the consent to file the application on behalf of the owners, they don't need to have any type of purchase rights or interest in the acquisition of the property?
It's an affiliate of Enhanced Acquisitions.
Yeah, but the affiliate doesn't, and I understand the point, it could be an affiliate through the ownership, but the affiliate still has to have its own rights, don't they? How do you make the nexus between the affiliate having rights to acquire something?
It's no different than like a contractor at a house that files permits on behalf of a homeowner. They have the affiliate, it's an affiliate of Enhanced Acquisitions.
Right.
They have the consent of the owner to file this application and present the application and get the approvals.
Homestead does, right?
Homestead does.
Okay.
And as part of any of the transaction, either the rights could be assigned to Homestead Road LLC or otherwise.
Okay.
But they've met the prerequisites to file the application, have the owner's consents, and they have an interest as being an
So
affiliate.
the consent makes the connection. I'm sorry.
Has the consent of the property owner, who's
Right.
also the seller, and is an affiliate of the contract purchaser.
Yeah. Mr. Giannetti, I'm following you with the consent of the owner, where you and I probably disagree, obviously, is the affiliate relationship, but that's fine. So is that the board, we're square with that then? Just tell me now if I'm swimming in the wrong direction.
Well, first of all,
I'm not looking to waste anybody's-
the
I'm not
answer
looking to
is
waste
you're not going to
anybody's
get an
time.
answer to am I. I would disagree on the issue of, the issue is not so much whether or not they have a consent issue, because this board has consent issues from other people, from purported property owners who have given them consent. The issue is apparently that the two entities in question have an affiliation which allows that one is connected to the other, which therefore makes them the potential property owner in the future. If objectors believe that the applicant does not have standing before this board, you will get the opportunity at the time that you make your presentation of your case to make that argument, and the board will ultimately deal with it. But as I believe I indicated at the December meeting, the standing issue per se is going to ultimately be decided by the board as part of the overall application. And as Mr. Giannetti and I have discussed over the last couple of days, I am still awaiting the documentation that I had asked for at the December 14th meeting, which is supposedly in transit to the wrong attorney, regarding the issue in terms of whether or not the lawsuit between the property owner and the applicant has been resolved. But I would indicate to the objectors that if you believe there is a standing issue, you have the right to make that argument at the time of your presentation. But for this evening, we're going to keep moving.
So just for clarity's sake, you asked for some documentation because there was a question that you had.
I was advised it was, I have not seen the documentation, and if I don't see the documentation by the end of the applicant's presentation, we're going to have an issue that's going to be addressed by the board at the appropriate time, irrespective of the objector's arguments. The issue was whether or not the litigation was resolved, because there is an ongoing litigation. There was brought to the board's attention that there may have been an issue between the property owner and the applicant relative to the property owner's desire to continue the sale of the property to the applicant. I have been led to believe it was represented by Mr. Giannetti through his client, not that Mr. Giannetti himself did. Mr. Giannetti, on behalf of his client, indicated it done so. His office is not handling the litigation per se, and I have been asking for the information, and Mr. Giannetti was unavailable to do so for various reasons that have no business with this discussion, and has indicated to me I will see it. Hopefully, I will see it between now and the next board meeting. And if I do, it will end up on Civic Clerk.
And then, if nothing else, at the end of the last meeting, when we did not complete the cross-examination, Mr. Tarantino's cross-examination of our witness, I made an objection and requested that the board end Mr. Tarantino's cross-examination and move on to the remainder of the public's cross-examination. This is our 12th hearing on this application, and we haven't even gotten 3/4 of the way through our presentation. We're over almost 2 years into it. The law is clear. The board has, and the chairman has, the right to limit cross-examination of the public in a reasonable manner. Even your ordinance provides for that as well, Section 188-19.H3, which talks about the testimony of witnesses, cross-examination, and subject to the discretion of the providing officer and to reasonable limitations as to the time and number of witnesses. This cross-examination is being used as a filibuster to just drag this process out to the point it's taken 3 meetings, and we still haven't gotten through the first cross-examination of our traffic engineer. At the last meeting, he was questioning our witness as to the report, asking to confirm information that was in the report. A number of times, Mr. Dean had to correct him as to information that was in the report, or at least as he was representing it. He also misrepresented the testimony of our architect in the cross-examination of Mr. Dean. He asked Mr. Dean, and this is on page 60, line 20 of the December transcript, referring to Mr. Valenza, our architect. So, Mr. Valenza, so you're saying, referring to Mr. Dean, you're saying that his estimate, referring to Valenza, of 1,080 trucks per day is consistent with the report? Now, as I noted, that was not the testimony of our architect. Not once did he say there would be 1,080 trucks. In fact, when Mr. Tarantino tried to do that, it was clear from Mr. Valenza's answers that he did not agree it would be 1,080 trucks, that it was unrealistic and it was not practical, and he disagreed with it. But those are the games that we're dealing with, because Mr. Tarantino's not an attorney. He's not bound by any rules of professional conduct. He keeps saying he represents SWAT. For the first several meetings of this application, he was just a resident objecting. It wasn't until May 2023 he started saying he represents SWAT. And until we started to try and limit the public, saying if you're a member of SWAT, you're not allowed to ask questions, then we come to realize this community group SWAT is really just 3 members and Mr. Tarantino. So the board has given wide latitude on this, and I appreciate that. But there's a lot of other members of the public that want to ask questions. Not to mention, they have their own traffic expert they said they're going to present. They have their own planner that they said they're going to present.
Not SWAT.
So there's going to be objector experts on these issues. Each witness is subject to a long line of cross-examination questions, a lot of repeated questions. As I noted, sometimes misrepresenting what the prior testimony was even about. So the law is clear. You have the right to limit it, and we'd ask that we move on to the next objector in their cross-examination. Thank you.
I mean, my response is, number one, I really object to being characterized as filibustering. I think that's an insulting term. The questions that I've been asking are substantive. This is an extremely important issue. This is perhaps the most important issue on this whole application. And there are a lot of substantive questions, unrepeated, that were necessary to ask and necessary to elucidate because the report is so inadequate. And so it's important to bring out these issues. With regard to Mr. Valenza's testimony, I mean, it's right there on the record. He said it's possible for it to be as many as that, but I don't think it will be. And I asked him, do you have an alternate estimate? And he said no. And Mr. Dean said, my report is in alignment with Mr. Valenza's estimate. So I'm not making it up. This is what was, it's all right there in the record. And just, at Mayor Lapani's or Mr. Lapani's encouragement last meeting, I only have a couple more questions to ask. So I don't have an hour's worth of questions.
So, I mean, obviously, I've given this some thought. So I'm going to allow you to finish the questions, but they are questions so that we can continue moving on, not to go back into reports and trying to verify. Take the answers.
Yep.
You will have a chance to, rebut those at the appropriate time. So I think that way we can continue things moving along.
Yes.
At that aspect.
And I fully understand. I appreciate that. And I fully understand that.
Mr. Tarantino, how many questions do you have? You said you have some questions for tonight. So
How
I'd like
many
to know
more
the
additional-
number of questions that you want to present tonight.
I have a few questions related to the.
Can you give me a number? Is it 3? Is it 15?
No. It's essentially it's essentially 3 questions.
It's 3 questions.
But I mean, there are there's.
No, it's either 3 or it's not. So I think what Counselor is saying, I think what the chairman is saying, I'd like to know, as a member sitting up here and having listened to you go on about stuff, how many questions you have tonight. You have 3?
I have a set of questions related to the supplemental
And how many is
report.
in the set? How many questions do you wish to ask? Because I'd like to get on the record so we can kind of move forward tonight.
Yeah, I'm interested in moving forward as well.
Great, then
2,
answer my
3,
question.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So we went from 3 to 8.
Well, the one is really a multi-part question. I can't make a
Mr. Chairman,
statement.
I think we need to move forward. I mean, it's going to drag on again. And I think he's answered and asked questions. He can't commit to how many went from 3, now it's 8. Where do we draw the line?
As long as you can keep them brief and no follow-ups, on any of those answers.
Sure.
So. And I think we'll need to swear you in again.
Yes, I do. Sure, Gary Dean, D-E-A-N.
Okay, and no changes in your credentials since
That's correct.
since
Mr.
last
Chairman.
year? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Dean. I do have a few questions about the supplemental report that you provided, or supplemental warehouse trip data that you provided. Do you recall your testimony on September 14th regarding this report, how you were relying upon that data?
Mr. Tarantino, is that question number 1?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know your reference to this report. Could you be more specific?
The additional, where it was a report that provided additional truck trips estimates for various warehouses in New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know and can't recall 4 months ago with specificity, so help me out and I can help you out.
Okay. In that testimony, you said that the report verified the ITE data and provided a benchmark. Does that sound right?
Is that question number 2, Mr. Tarantino?
I don't recall.
Mr. Wagner.
I mean, I'm asking because I wanted you to identify the questions. You had 3, now we're at 8. I'm assuming, is this question number 2, or you have follow-ups?
I mean, Is this going faster, or can I?
No,
can
I
be-
just would like for you to answer your questions. The chairman has given you latitude, but I have the right to ask that question of you, do I not?
You surely do.
Thank you. Then please move on.
I'm waiting for an answer. Do you recall that you said that the report verified the ITE data and provided a benchmark?
If he has a question about a report he submitted, ask him a question about the report instead of recalling what his testimony was 3 or 4 months ago. He's provided testimony.
Great.
He submitted a report. If he has a question about it, identify what in the report he has a question about and ask it.
Can you provide the date of this report?
No, because I don't know what you're referring to.
It was a one-page, it looked like this. This is a partial.
Okay, I don't call that a report. That's a chart of data that was collected at existing warehouses in New Jersey. So, yes, I recall that data. It was actually presented to the board at the last hearing.
And can you,
It was marked as an exhibit.
Marked
So you
as
just
an exhibit.
Should have said 810.
can you
Been
provide
helpful.
the date of that exhibit?
It was marked at the last hearing, so whatever the date in December that was.
December 14th.
December 14th.
Can you show where the authors of this chart are identified?
Yeah, it's my office, as I explained in
Can you?
testimony.
My question was, can you show where the authors of the
Objection.
report are identified?
Objection. There's no requirement that he's using a chart explaining what the data is.
I'm just
testified
asking a
as to the
simple
chart.
question. Can you show where the authors of the report are identified?
I've identified it verbally in my testimony.
Can you show where the methodology for selecting these warehouses and measuring the traffic flows are detailed?
Again, I believe I described that in testimony, that it is research data our office has collected, principally at the request of another municipality as to the accuracy of ITE data, and that a select of 10 different sites was chosen of various sizes throughout the state, with one location in Pennsylvania.
But there isn't a documentation of the methodology?
Other than my testimony, no.
Does the name of your firm appear on the page?
The document speaks for itself. Move on, Mr. Tarantino.
Does this? All right, never mind. I won't use up one of my questions. Mr. Dean, you've testified that you estimated, or you agreed with Mr. Mayhew's estimate of 320 truck trips per day for the combined facilities. Once approved and operational, will there be anything that would stop the operator of the facilities from increasing the number of trucks that use the facility beyond this estimate?
Unless the board imposes some condition, I know of no mechanism.
Okay. So the amount could be higher than your 320 trips per day?
Conceivably, it could be.
Those are all of my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Scott Gross, objector number 2. I was unable to attend the last meeting on December 14th. However, I watched a video recording prior to tonight's meeting, so I'm familiar with the proceedings from last time. I just have a few questions. If you don't mind, could you project the site plan that you had up there from Van Cleef earlier, just for reference? Thank you.
For the record, that's A4.
Mr. Dean, in your report on page 11, actually, you mentioned, and I'll quote, "Access is proposed via 4 full-movement driveways along Homestead Road. The proposed access driveways were designed to achieve the required stopping site distance along Homestead Road, allowing for full movement operation," end quote. Can you please explain what the term stopping site distance means?
That is the visibility available to a driver traveling on the roadway to perceive an object within their travel path and to execute a deceleration before hitting the object.
Can you explain how you arrived at the conclusion that the stopping site distance is adequate along Homestead Road.
Yes, that is from what is known as the Ashto Green Book, which is a policy on the geometric design of streets. And Ashto says for safety, an intersection must be designed for a minimum of stopping site distance for it to be safe.
So you performed calculations according to this code?
Correct.
For traffic traveling east on Homestead Road after cresting the railroad bridge, this is a blind hill that makes it difficult for vehicles on Homestead to see what's on the other side of the bridge while crossing it. Are you aware that during the applicant's operations testimony, the operations expert testified that's possible for warehouses 1 and 2 to have gated entrances and security checkpoints into their driveways?
I don't believe those features are shown on the plan,
They're not shown,
so it's not part of the proposal.
but they were discussed during testimony of the operations expert.
I'll rely on the plans that are before the board.
And again, I believe the testimony was he didn't anticipate there would be a security guard or a gate at these facilities because they're not common. Typical tenant could request one, and they would have to come back to the board to get approval for that.
All right, so during this scenario, if there were security checkpoints at the westernmost driveway to warehouse number 2, what would happen to the stopping site distance if there were multiple trucks backed up on Homestead Road awaiting entry to that driveway?
Because that feature is not shown on the plan, we haven't evaluated that scenario.
Okay, thank you. Second and last set of questions regarding stopping of trucks, braking. For commercial trucks envisioned for these facilities, do you agree that most truck drivers would carry commercial driver's license, also known as CDLs?
I believe that would be a requirement for them to legally operate on roads and highways in the state.
Do you agree that most CDL drivers would use their equipment according to their training in order to stop safely, effectively, and with minimum wear and tear on their vehicles?
Well, I expect them to operate their vehicles in a safe and prudent manner. Beyond that, as to how it affects long-term maintenance of the vehicle, I don't have an opinion on that.
Are you aware that many commercial trucks are equipped with and use engine brakes, also known as Jake brakes, as a safe means to aid braking effectiveness?
Objection assumes facts not in evidence. No one's testified that this is the case.
I'll let him hear it continue. I want to see where it's going.
Sure. Are you aware that commercial trucks use engine brakes to slow down?
Yes.
To aid their braking effectiveness?
Yes.
For the estimated number of trucks traveling to the warehouses east on Homestead Road, do you agree it'd be reasonable for many of them to use their engine brakes to slow down?
That I can't answer.
So has there been any consideration given to the noise levels and disruption to local residents caused by engine braking?
Engine braking, unless it's prohibited in the municipality, is certainly permitted, and the noise levels emitted from a vehicle traveling on public roads is not subject to sound level standards under the administrative code.
So it hasn't been addressed as part of this application?
Well, I'm not a sound level expert, so I haven't specifically evaluated that.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. That ends my questions. Thank you.
I also just have a couple of questions. Oh, is this one? Thanks.
Sorry, your name again for the record?
Sorry, Lucy Sandler, representing the Sauerland Conservancy. So my first question is, in your experience, do traffic studies or analysis in general consider ecological impact or impact to wildlife habitat?
No.
Can someone request that a traffic study be done specifically to assess the impact of traffic to wildlife or plants in the area?
The two are totally different disciplines. So anybody can ask. I just have never heard of that ever being done.
Okay. Given that this property is located in one of the last remaining wildlife corridors in central New Jersey, do you have any concerns about how increased traffic, no matter how minimal, would impact the already stressed wildlife in the area?
And again, I'm going to object. It's assuming facts, not in evidence. If they want to present that in their direct presentation, they can.
Okay, then I just have one more question, mostly just to get it on the record. So it's reasonable to say that your traffic study didn't consider the impact of increased traffic to the area from an ecological standpoint?
I don't even understand that question.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is, my initial question was, do traffic studies consider ecological impact or impact to wildlife habitat?
The
You're
answer is
saying they do not.
They're traffic studies, not wildlife studies, so they don't.
Okay, those are my only questions.
And
Objectors 3 and 4. Any questions?
Actually, 1 and 4.
Who was 1? I thought Mr. Tarantino was 1.
No, Mr. Tarantino was
Okay.
3.
I have to give you guys numbers.
It's on the
aware.
list.
Okay. Public. Open to public.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, if there's anyone in the public that would like to ask, come on up. Everyone will get a turn.
I would just ask if the question was asked and answered previously by the objectors, that would not re-ask the same question. Just please bring up new topics. Thank you.
Okay, just state your name and address for the record, please.
And indicate that you're not represented by any of the objectors.
Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road. None of the objectors have claimed me.
And you're not a member of
Want them
SWAT?
to?
No, they haven't claimed me.
Susan, you
either.
might want to just put the microphone down. You look like you're straining to get up to it.
How's
so.
that? Where's
Sorry,
the
your
other
name
one? Susan Gulliford. You've had it previously. I just have one follow-up for something Mr. Dean just said that got my attention. The question on Jake Breaks. You said they could be prohibited by a township code. That would be at the local level as opposed to being, for example, a state Title 49 or something?
Well, I don't know what state title
I'm sorry, state
is.
motor vehicle code.
That's 39.
39, sorry.
I don't believe there is any state regulation prohibiting that, and it is adopted on a even street by street or municipal level.
Okay, thank you.
Take the mic out of them.
My name is Nancy Mattei, Mattei, and I live at 6 Cornell Trail in Hillsborough. That's Northridge Pond. The development is quite close to the Homestead Road development. And I did have a couple of questions about the traffic study, so I wanted to ask you. The warehouses that were chosen, these were not all recently observed. Some of them were observed several years ago.
You're referring to the
Is that-
supplemental report?
Yeah, is that typical to do that in a traffic report, to use non-current data?
Data is data, and as traffic engineers develop our forecast for a given size building, we look at the available data. Some of it has been collected in the 1970s. Some of it has been collected in 2023. So we look at the available data, irrespective of when it was collected. Some of our data was collected pre-COVID, some of it was collected post-COVID.
Okay. And when you collect this data, do you take into account the comparability to the size and the location of the developments as compared to your project? Or do you simply pick warehouses and concentrate on traffic flow?
I don't understand. We chose a warehouse building that was not, for example, an Amazon package fulfillment center. We looked at traditional warehouses ranging in size from 200,000 square feet up to 730,000 square feet. Obviously, bigger buildings per square foot generate a certain amount of traffic, and that's what we do. We look at it on a per square foot basis. But each building, because they're different sizes, generates different traffic. So, for example, a building in Piscataway at 533,000 square feet generates more traffic than a building in the Lehigh Valley that's 300,000 square feet.
Mhm.
So it's proportional generally to the size of the building.
Okay, and do you, for example, try to match proportionally the number of unloading and loading bays to each warehouse? For example, this warehouse, this facility is going to have, what, 88 loading doors, 90 loading doors?
I don't recall the number.
Okay, so, do you look at warehousing that is comparable to that, such that you can look at it from a capacity standpoint?
Sure. Much like building area, the number of loading docks increases as the building gets bigger. So a larger building would have more loading docks. I have not projected traffic on the basis of loading docks.
Okay.
ITE, which is the recognized source for the compilation of this data, has not reviewed it on the basis of loading docks.
Okay. And you have estimates that are based on the traffic coming in and out of your selected warehouses. How comparable are the uses at these warehouses at the time that you monitored the traffic to the uses that could potentially be in this building?
Sure. I would submit that they are comparable. One location that we reviewed in Piscataway, which actually had higher data than ITE, we did review that, and its tenants, and I'm going by memory at this point, were computer assembler, they build them. I don't recall the exact specifics of the other tenant, but I would say they are consistent with what our architect represented as typical tenancy within a warehouse.
Okay. And when you formulated these numbers, did you anticipate that different uses would function at different capacities? Or did you strictly just observe what was going in and what was going out at specific times?
Sure. When we look at a warehouse building, whether it's chopped up into multi-tenants or it's one tenant, we just count the driveway. We count cars in and out, we count trucks in and out.
Okay.
And those tenants change over time. We look at these on a given snapshot, and to rely on one data source comes with some risk, which is why ITE has dozens of studies that we've now augmented with 10 of our own in New Jersey. And I will say the numbers that we have counted in New Jersey are all lower than ITE, except for the one site in Piscataway that we reviewed. And the difference is not significant, but we did at least acknowledge it and consider it.
And did you note any warehouses within the 8 that you used in your latest table that had any vacancies in them?
No, they were all, to the best of my knowledge, they were all fully occupied at the time.
Okay, because I tend to think that 1 or 2 of them did have vacant space in them at that time, and that would minimize or slant the number of trucks going in and out.
You have the date of our counts. I'll leave that to your presentation.
Okay. And regarding the 160 trucks that you believe are going to be coming in and out during the day, when you say 160 trucks in a day, are you talking about an 8-hour day? Because you also say that there could be 200 to 300 trucks over the total day.
That is on a 24-hour basis, so it's 161 trucks for a warehouse, and that is a traditional warehouse. A for example, a transload short-term warehouse, which has a lot more automation, has less traffic across the board, fewer trucks. In fact, it has about a third of the truck traffic. A non-sorting fulfillment center, which is for deliveries and processing to retailers, not the individual customers, that generates about a third as many trucks. So it's conceivable that there will be fewer trucks than that 160 that have been discussed.
Okay. And all of the facilities you used, I believe, are in industrialized areas, some in industrial parks. Most have access to 2 and 3 and 4 highways, so they are also located in traffic hubs. Hillsborough does not fit that
Objection
profile.
again. They're assuming facts, not in evidence. She can't be testifying through her questioning.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? So I can't, can you face me when you say that?
Sure, you're assuming facts, not in evidence. You can't testify through your questioning. During public comment, you
Okay,
can
so
present evidence.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that then. Did you in fact take into account that, I almost forgot my question. Did you take into account that 160 trucks a day, and let me just go to where I was, going to it, as an endpoint, to save some time. We have a difference of opinion as to the amount of trucks that can come in and out of this facility in an hour. You're saying 160 a day. I would say that it could be up to 160 an hour, based on a 1-hour loading or unloading time, with a stacking, with a what's the name of it? I'm losing my train of thought. With a off-site unloading. So the unloader takes out a pallet, puts it in an area, and it's taken away immediately. The unloader does not bring the pallet to the stack.
Objection again.
So-
It's testifying through questioning.
Question, please.
Yeah, so based on the capacity of this facility, 160 trucks a day, to me would seem light. Does it seem light to you for a facility with 88 loading doors?
As we look at A10, these are actual counts of warehouses in New Jersey. The highest volume of trucks for any peak hour for any building was 22. Nope, excuse me. That's ITE. It looks like 17, and that's the one in Piscataway. And that's a 533,000 square foot building. 17. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different sites.
I'm sorry, what report is that?
A10. So the illusion of there being 160 trucks an hour is not supported by any data that I've seen.
Okay, but, as far as I know, a truck can be unloaded in 20 minutes.
Well, that's why we look at reality versus other ways of calculating volume.
Okay. You have allocated over 200 tractor-trailer spaces in the parking facility. Is that right? I thought I heard 150 and 59.
I don't know the number.
Okay.
We have it on the plan.
And those numbers are over the required amount in the zoning ordinance, which leads me to believe that you are going to be doing, 4 to 12 and 12 to 8. You're projecting that this facility could do 4 to 12 and 12 to 8 loading, unloading. Is that a possibility here?
I don't understand the question. Are you talking about the times of operation?
Yeah, yes, I'm talking about whether or not the building can accommodate a 3-shift operation.
I believe it can. I think that
Okay.
was the testimony
And
from
what-
our architect.
Is it reasonable to believe that because all of these other facilities that you have cited are in traffic hubs, and have near immediate access to major roadways, where Hillsborough, as you yourself state in your traffic report, is a one lane going to the south and one lane going to the north Route 206 highway. If you function at a higher capacity than 160 trucks, it is feasible that you could back those trucks up. Is that why there are more spaces for tractor trailers allocated on site in case of traffic backup?
No, that is an operational practice used at every warehouse where oftentimes merchandise can't, or whatever products are in the trailer, either have been loaded and are awaiting a pickup or need to be unloaded and will be done at some future point. So it is a means to store trailers. So the very scenario you described, there isn't a backup of trucks waiting for an empty dock. There is a margin of safety operationally to accommodate that increase.
Okay. So you think that more is a margin? You think that more is a margin of safety, rather than looking toward uses that might run at a very heavy capacity?
Correct.
Okay. In your letter, the most recent letter to the township, you had stated that because the property was zoned for an industrial use, it was a reasonable expectation that the infrastructure be in place to be able to accommodate tractor-trailer traffic. Am I stating that properly?
That is a reasonable assumption when zoning is created, that the planners and the board and other professionals look at the consequences of a given zoning, and as someone representing a property owner whose property is zoned for it, yes, there is that expectation.
Okay. So,
otherwise, the zone wouldn't have been created to allow it.
okay, well, in Hillsborough, that obviously was not the case. And, we have an owner of one of the parcels who actually lives on Homestead Road and probably does know that the infrastructure is not in place
Objection.
on Homestead Road.
Objection.
I have to agree. Please ask a question,
Oh, okay.
because that's
Okay. Yeah,
you're offering testimony.
You're testifying as to somebody else's belief that lives on the road.
Okay, well, my question then is, as New Jersey is a caveat emptor state, wouldn't it be incumbent upon you to verify during due diligence that in fact the infrastructure does exist to accommodate the use?
I represent the applicant. The steps a developer or an applicant undertakes is up to them. Looking at things such as water and sewer and roadway and whether the power grid can support it, those are part of that evaluation, sure. But when we see a roadway adjacent to a site, and that roadway then connects to the state highway, and that roadway, as we go to the other side of the bypass, has similar industrial uses, there's a fairly reasonable expectation that it's consistent with that other pattern of development.
Okay, but the expectation, in my estimation,
Objection.
okay, the expectation, wouldn't you want to verify that rather than just expect
Yeah.
that that's so?
Okay, I've answered the question. So that we're abutting a road, and we have proposed access to that road.
Okay. Okay. With regard to the fact that you have no in-hand users for the facility, and I'm sorry, is that still the case, that you don't have anybody who is under contract?
We have not
or
identified a
leasing?
tenant.
I'm sorry?
We have not identified a tenant.
Okay, so you haven't identified any tenant. So without identifying a tenant, how can you choose facilities that would be comparable, since the word comparable implies a like kind use that would generate the same or similar amount of trucks?
Sure, and that's why, as I explained, there are 6 different types of warehouse categories under the Institute of Transportation Engineers. We have chosen, with one exception, and that is because the building is not designed for it, we have chosen the type of warehouse that generates the most amount of traffic, trucks and cars, to be conservative. If it happens to be one of the other types of warehouses, the good news is there'll be a lot less traffic.
Okay,
So by studying the most conservative, the end user is not affecting my opinion and my study.
Okay, so in a traffic study that represents a facility that, or that is, is there for a facility that does not have any identifiable users yet, would it rather be more prudent to present 2 or 3 different scenarios? A low-end minimum truck generation scenario?
Objection. It's been asked and answered. He explained he used the most conservative approach, using the one that produces the highest amount of traffic.
So the answer is no. I wouldn't study something that generates less.
Okay, so you don't have anything that would indicate a lesser case scenario and a worst case scenario in terms of capacity and truck generation?
Sure. I've studied the worst case. As I've said, anything else generates less.
Okay, historically, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Again, as I refer to A10 and we compare ITE estimates versus real world, the real world is less. But I used ITE and I used the highest warehouse generator in ITE to do my study.
Okay.
So
But would you acknowledge that there's still a possibility that an end user would generate a tremendous amount of traffic? Or could generate a tremendous amount of traffic in excess of, and far in excess of your traffic report?
Not from any of the data I've seen.
Okay, so we have no real comparable users. We have 88 docks that can turn over a tremendous amount of trucks in a very short period of time. And we have, and we just have no warehouses that have been looked at that could possibly estimate who the users of this facility might be. So is it possible that we would generate a tremendous amount of traffic?
Objection. It's been asked and answered.
I'm going to, that's been answered.
We're going in circles here. You're asking the same question. It's been answered. He advertised or studied the highest case scenario, and that's what his testimony is going to be. There's nothing going to indicate what you say or ask that's going to change his mind.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. So do you believe that this traffic study then is the most comprehensive and comparable traffic study for this facility?
I think it's relevant to the proposal, and at its worst, it overstates the projected traffic associated with the eventual tenancy of the building.
Okay. Has anybody in your organization ever actually run a distribution warehouse?
No, we're engineers.
Okay. Well, a lot of engineers have experience in, in warehousing.
I've certainly worked in them.
Okay. Okay. And has anybody in your organization ever unloaded a tractor trailer?
Actually, I have.
Objection. Relevancy.
Mr. Jana, I got it. Just questions of his testimony, not of his past experience, unless it's...
I just want to get a feel for whether or not there's practical application among the people who create a report.
Well, I mean, he's already gave that testimony. He's using an industry standard to make his determination. So.
Okay.
That are based on counts of actual warehouses. I mean, it doesn't get any simpler.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Should I adjust?
That's up to you. How good is your back?
Good evening. I'm Keith Sherman, 16 Walnut Grove Road. And you'll be happy to hear I'm not going to ask you any questions about how many trucks.
It's okay.
Unless you want.
Whatever you'd like.
My concern really is more to do with some of the peripheral things that go on. In a traffic study, were you mandated to come up with a bottom line, a go, no-go kind of thing, or it's basically just a statistical gathering data?
I'm not understanding your question.
When they hire a traffic study, is it to prove or disprove a location is ideal for whatever the proposal is?
Well, when you say ideal, we're looking at a piece of property that is zoned for the use. That means the township has a blueprint, and it says in a particular area in the town, you're allowed to go build these things. Sometimes they're houses, sometimes they're shopping centers, sometimes they're warehouses. The blueprint for this piece of property is a warehouse. We're fulfilling that blueprint. Now, I know the blueprint has changed, but we have certain protections. So when we do a traffic study, we are basically evaluating the impacts of the zoning that's been put in place.
So the bottom line of the study wouldn't necessarily come back to the developer and say that site wouldn't be able to handle the business that you're proposing. In this case, since we don't know who the tenant is, all the numbers really are sort of irrelevant based on studies from hundreds of other cases.
Well, not knowing the tenant is not necessary, because when we look at the different warehouse types and we choose the highest one, and then we buttress that with looking at real warehouse data in New Jersey, everything comes up that we've studied this in the most conservative manner. To the extent we identify a traffic problem, for example, a poor level of service, we then look at means to mitigate or improve that level of service. So that is part of the traffic study, but we look at a given site plan application as to the safety and efficiency of the driveway points, their intersection with the public streets, and the on-site circulation.
So did the study looking at the intersection of 206 and Homestead, does the analysis indicate that any widening or changing in the traffic lights would be necessary, left turn arrows, that kind of thing?
We did, and we identified an existing low level of service, principally due to the high school traffic in the morning. That has nothing to do with the development of the site. It's already there. We have identified what it would take to fix that, and it's literally changing the timing of the light by a couple of seconds. And if that's something that the township feels is appropriate, there are procedures to go about that with DOT in as that it's their signal.
And part of your study, I assume you looked at the intersection of Hillsborough Road and 206 and Raider Boulevard and 206?
No. We looked at Homestead, and we looked at our intersection with Route 206. Once it gets beyond that, again, as a permitted use, as a zoned use, and recognizing some of our traffic goes south, some of our traffic goes north, it dilutes the impact at Raider and at Amwell and at points further north.
So are you familiar with those? I was just curious whether the proposed intersection for Homestead would be more like Raider or Hillsborough Road.
Each intersection is different for a variety of reasons.
No, I mean, would Hillsborough Road be more likely to be how Homestead Road would end up being, as opposed to Raider with multiple lanes?
Well, they're different in that Hillsborough Road is a T intersection. This is a four-way. So each one has characteristics that make it unique. I can't directly compare them and say they're the same.
And I'm trying to remember back to one of your previous testimonies. You talked about widening of Homestead, or at least widening the shoulder at the entrance areas for the driveways.
That has been a requirement, either it's an ordinance requirement or by the engineer that, yes, the frontage be widened for a shoulder on the site side of Homestead.
And that would not continue all the way to 206 necessarily?
It would not.
Okay.
It's a frontage improvement.
And does the traffic study indicate areas in town where it would be appropriate for trucks to park?
No, we have not looked at that on site. We're not, once a truck comes on the property, there are parking docks and loading
Well,
spaces.
with all the additional traffic, though, there's likely to be drivers showing up early or late for appointments that may have to.
Objection.
That testimony is not on the record. I can't agree with
No,
that premise.
I'm saying because we don't know who the tenant is, we don't know what to expect as far as that goes, whether trucks will be permitted on property to sit for hours.
So is there a question?
I'm trying to understand, where are all the trucks coming and going to this facility, going to stop to have lunch? Where are they going to stop to sleep? And if it's not on the property, where else has been identified in town that would accommodate that?
That's beyond the scope of his testimony. He's not testifying as to the.
Let your witness answer that.
No, it's beyond the scope of his
No,
testimony.
he could state that himself.
I have not studied where a trucker will stop for lunch.
And to be clear, that's a legal objection.
And was there, I know you said you're assuming the trucks will be permitted on property, but if the property has a security gate, will there be a setback to allow for a truck?
Objection. This has been asked and answered at least 3 different times from 3 different witnesses or members of the public and board. It's been asked and answered.
So the answer was no, I'm trying to remember.
There's no gates proposed. There's no gates on here. If any gates are ever proposed, we would have to come back to the board.
It's been established, there's no
No,
security.
I wasn't asking about the gate. I'm asking about, will there be enough space for a truck coming down Homestead if they had to make a U-turn at that site? They would have to go onto the property, you're saying. There is no, to do that.
If you're asking, can a truck randomly turn around and use this site? Well, that's a trespass. If they don't have business on the property, that's just a management issue for the owner. But that's a truck unrelated to the site.
The truck may not realize that until he arrives.
That's speculation.
I'm asking if the only way for a truck to make a U-turn is to enter the property.
They can't make a U-turn today. If a
There's no
truck comes
warehouse
down
there today.
If a truck comes down Homestead Road, they can't make a U-turn. I don't know why putting this building here would invite.
Because that's where the trucks are going.
Well, then they're going to the building.
All right, I'm trying to point out that arrival rates don't mean automatic entry to the property. What does the driver do if he's not permitted on the property?
There is no restriction for them to enter the property.
And we know that for certain.
There are no gates proposed.
That's already been testified to. There is no security being proposed.
And the tenant that we don't know.
Right now, they're not proposing any security.
But a tenant could put a gate.
And we would have to come back to the board.
They would have to come back to the board for.
And I guess the traffic study doesn't indicate what happens with accidents in front of the property. Is that you mentioned the 4 driveways, they're all accessible to Homestead through the property?
Each driveway intersects Homestead Road, and
if one driveway was blocked, can another one be used to enter the?
Yes.
Okay. And any accidents, any spills, any things like that, the township is responsible for responding to, I'm assuming?
That's not a traffic question.
And now that we have the weight restriction on Willow Road, the only way to prevent trucks is police presence, I'm assuming.
And signage, and that's how weight limits are enforced, yes.
And drivers would have to obey the sign.
Correct.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gail Martin, Hillsborough Road. I'm not represented by any of the objectors. According to your testimony, you did peak traffic counts in the morning between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock a.m. and then in the afternoon from 4:45 to 5:45. You also said, and I quote, "So the fact that this use, as any land use, may generate traffic in the middle of the day or at other hours outside of the peak is not generally of material consequence from a traffic engineering perspective. I do not understand your statement, since this spec warehouse facility is proposed to run 24/7. Why isn't traffic during the day and night of material consequence?"
Sure.
Can you clarify this for me?
First off, I just need to correct your introductory sentence in that our counts were conducted from 7 to 9 in the morning and from 4 to 6:30 at night. Within those 2 to 2.5 hour ranges, we identified the 60 minutes called the peak hour when traffic was busiest. Just so we're clear on that. That did happen to be 7 to 8 in the morning and 4:45 to 5:45 at night. So those are the actual peak hours, but we counted for much longer. The reason we focus on the peak hours is because that's when ambient traffic is highest. And that's when the simultaneous impact of site traffic and street traffic is coincident. So that's when the system is most constrained. Any business generates traffic throughout the day. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 11:30 in the morning. Those aren't peak hours. So if I study the peak and I understand how the system works, I don't need to study it at other times when there's less traffic. Doesn't add any value to the process. We know that it'll generate traffic in the business day, but I don't need to study it at 11:30 because I know the ambient traffic is much less than it is at rush hour.
What if there are multiple shifts?
Then they will occur. Oddly, the paradox is if there are multiple shifts, they actually operate outside of the peak hours, meaning a shift that starts at 7, those people have to be there before the peak hour starts. That's actually a benefit in terms of spreading the traffic out that aren't during the peak hour, that isn't during the peak hours. So that's a benefit.
Okay, why is there no mention of traffic for the 219 employees for both warehouses in your traffic study?
Yeah, there is. That's how we determine the volumes in our report.
That's included in the total?
Yes. We've separated between cars and trucks.
Can you show me on the plans where the truck parking spaces are?
They're to the north of Building 2, I believe, which is the easterly building. And Mr. Genetti is showing you it is on the north side of Building, so the opposite side of Homestead. And on Building 1, which is in the northwest quadrant of the property, that truck parking area is to the west of the building, between the building and the rail line.
During your testimony, you stated, and I quote, "We do not want trucks queuing in the driveways, so we have truck parking spaces. We have 58 loading docks in the larger building so that no one must wait." To clarify, aren't you saying it is possible to have all 58 loading docks utilized at one time?
And I can't conceive of that, but in the event that scenario did occur, that's why we have the parking spaces on the opposite side of the loading docks. That gives the truck a place if a dock happens to not be available. If all the receiving docks are full and the only docks left are shipping, then the truck will wait.
Since this is a spec warehouse, how can you provide an accurate traffic study since you don't know who the tenant is?
Yeah, I've covered that already.
Asked and answered multiple times.
Every building's a spec building.
Okay, thank you.
Offices, shopping centers. I'm doing this for a reason.
Mayhew?
Mr. Dean, just to help clarify a question that the resident asked, your traffic report concentrates on peak hour trips, and we've talked about also the total daily trips for trucks. Did you ever put in your report the total daily non-truck trips?
I don't remember at this point.
Is that something you could provide?
it's ITE. I mean, I know your office can provide it just as easily, but let me consult my notes. Based on ITE data, for warehouse land use code 150, the 24-hour volume would be 315 total traffic movements, vehicles, so double it, call it 630 trips. For ITE code 154, which is a transload and short-term warehouse, that's 376 vehicles per day, or 752 trips. For a non-sort fulfillment center, that's 486 vehicles per day, or 972 total trips. And for a cold storage warehouse, it's 570 vehicles per day, or 1,140. So it's not in the report, but again, that's because the report focuses on peak hours, not looking at other times of the day.
Yeah, I couldn't find those numbers in your report, but I think it's helpful to the public to have that data. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I'm sorry, is he going to submit that report just as an exhibit of record or?
No.
Testimony to the,
He just made that as testimony to the record. That's why I'm taking it. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, just one, when you say total vehicles, is that apart from trucks?
No, that's total
Inclusive,
vehicles and
includes
the
trucks.
trucks.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ina Sivriver. I live on 24 Tally Ho Trail in Hillsborough, and I'm not represented by the objectors. Mr. Dean, I have a question. You have that you said you based your traffic report on 8 randomly chosen warehouses in New Jersey
No,
that are roughly the same floor size.
I did not say that.
Can you please clarify?
You chose I watched the video several times, and you used the word random several times. Can you please explain what does that mean, randomly chosen warehouses that are roughly the same size?
Sure. Let me start with the original traffic study. I don't recall, but it's the one from December 22nd, 2021. That report initially used what's called ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers data. Throughout this process, there have been questions regarding the accuracy of that data. And so through efforts in our office, we've looked at and we had data available for 9 other warehouses in New Jersey that we happened to collect for other projects. That's what was introduced as A10. And it shows that those warehouses in New Jersey generate less traffic than ITE, than we assumed in our study. It's information. It's just a few more data points to say what we did is in the ballpark. It's all very reasonable. It follows professional practice, and that the numbers are, if anything, overstated in this study.
I see, but these were the numbers that you already had because you worked with those warehouses. But would it make sense to have all the statistical information about warehouses in New Jersey and build the report based on that, and not by the 8 or 10 warehouses data that your office had?
Yeah, I didn't rely on that data in my report. I offered it to highlight, to say that what I did in my report based on ITE data is consistent with what we're seeing in New Jersey. My report was not based on these 8 or 9 warehouses. It's just more data to say what we did was reasonable and consistent with professional practice.
Okay, so it was an example to show that this is how it works in real life in New Jersey.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So the warehouse is planned to work 24/7. And my question is, you measured the traffic during the rush hours, like the most traffic during the day. what are the projected truck trips during quiet hours? And I understand that they will be less than the maximum, but since this is quiet hours, this can be quite a lot for people who live in nearby neighborhoods.
First, I don't think there's been any indication that this definitely will be a 24-hour operation. It can be. There's nothing that precludes it, but there's nothing that says that's how they'll run it. I don't know what the number of truck trips will be at 10 in the morning. I don't. I can tell you what they are at peak hours, because that's when we study. What they are at 10 or 11 or 8 o'clock at night, I don't have a means to forecast that.
Or what they'll be at 2 a.m. in the night, we don't know.
We don't know.
Okay. Traffic about on Route 206. So in the Township Master Plan, there is a plan to make the 206 into Main Street of Hillsborough. Right now, at least in this part, 206 is only one lane in every direction. So if we add to the existing traffic, the additional one truck every 6 minutes, which means 2 truck trips, right, every 6 minutes. Do you think this is a suitable amount of traffic for a future Main Street?
I think that question surfaced at the last hearing, and the short answer is there would be a lot of businesses negatively affected if the Main Street of what we'll call it Old 206 was restricted to trucks. I don't know how where ShopRite is today could get deliveries. I don't know how Pet Rocks could get deliveries, or Bottle King or any other store. They would still need to have trucks come to their stores. However, in the event that through traffic for trucks was somehow restricted, instead of site traffic going to Homestead and turning right, they would turn left. And they'd go to Hillsborough Road, next light to the south, turn left, and get on the bypass.
Okay. Now, I wasn't talking about restricting the 206. I was talking about adding to the existing traffic more traffic from the warehouse and see how it affects the future, hopefully future Main Street.
That was discussed at the last hearing.
Okay. There is no guarantee that there will be no truck queuing on the bridge above the railroad, right? Because there is a very big hill there. You can't see what's going on, and truck queuing on the bridge can be dangerous. Am I right that there is no guarantee it won't happen?
Well, the good news about a truck is it's 13 feet in the air, whereas a car is 3.5. So it's visible much further back on Homestead Road.
But in terms of the bridge holding the traffic.
The structural capacity of the bridge? Again, that's where we have to assume there are trucks that use it today, that it has the capability to accommodate that traffic.
Okay, thank you. And so last questions, at least what I read that sometimes trucks arrive too early and they not allowed at the facility, so they have to wait somewhere in the township. And
Objection. Again, she's testifying something she read.
I'll let her to get to her question, and if it's a repeat, I'll agree with you.
so can I
Question.
continue?
Yeah.
So my question is, how can I be sure that tractor trailer won't hang up in the neighborhoods around the facility till their appointment is up?
I don't know why they would do that. They have unencumbered access to the site.
I just read, if I may,
Objection.
forums of truckers, and they talked about different facilities. And
Objection. Again, she's
Sorry,
testifying
it's
through
just-
questionings from a website
You
she
can
read.
present that at the end of this
And I'll
application.
object to her presenting a forum of truckers.
Well, she can state it in a way,
I don't want,
hypothetical.
What is hearsay?
Not as, okay, she could, and we take it as hearsay.
Sir, we live here and we might have tractor trailers just by next to our house for 2 hours with ignition on, and that's not fun. So, okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Mike, do you need a break? So we can do one more. Okay.
You raise.
Then we'll take a break.
Can we get a raise of hands of how many have more questions?
Yeah, there's several.
There's several.
It's
All
just
right.
one more before break.
Well, no, Mike wants a break now. All right, it's 9:05. We'll take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 9:15 according to the clock on the dais. Okay, we are back in session. And we're in the middle of questioning the traffic engineer on his testimony. So if there's anyone that would like to start coming on up, state your name and address for the record. Also, just a reminder that we will be ending at 10 p.m., so we got about 40 minutes or so. So for everyone that is coming up, please be cognizant.
Gentlemen, Mr. Dean, my name is Bill Martin, 237 Hillsborough Road. Hi, Mr. Dean, it sounds like you were, but have you been to the site in the surrounding area?
I have.
Okay. All right, your report states, this is a quote, "The bypass is intended to divert traffic from Route 206, thus reducing traffic volumes traveling through the signalized intersection with Homestead Road." Doesn't this warehouse complex accomplish the opposite of that, the NJDOT request?
They're two different issues. So the bypass certainly diverted traffic that is regional in nature. This particular project would generate traffic to the current alignment of 206 because there is no interchange with the bypass and Homestead Road.
Okay, yeah, there was supposed to be a connector road originally, but that's not part of the ordinance, right? Sure.
Just a little closer.
Okay, is that good? All right. All right, but this is going to increase traffic on Homestead
The
and 206.
development will do that, yes.
All right. All right, your report describes both Willow and Homestead roads as local roads. What is your definition of a local road?
It's not a DOT or a county jurisdiction road.
All right, I found a definition that says local roads serve a minor role in the classification system and usually have low traffic, buses
Objection.
and heavy vehicles.
Yeah, please in the form of a question because you're providing testimony.
Well, I have a question after it.
Well,
It just
please
says
ask the question.
buses and heavy vehicles are less expected on local streets. Would you agree with that?
It's under township jurisdiction. That's local road.
Okay.
That's my definition. That's what the report says.
All right. During your testimony, you projected a build-out of several years. Were construction vehicles considered in your traffic study?
No.
All right. Were the number of cars generated from the construction workers considered in your report?
No.
All right. Shouldn't this be considered since there's going to be multiple hundreds, maybe thousands of vehicles?
Well, we've looked at it for the development of the property as it's zoned. The fact that there will be different trades in at different times. Our forecast is close to 100 vehicles per hour. Whether the construction of this would warrant that kind of activity, I don't know. But no, we typically look at the post-construction conditions.
But this is a massive warehouse complex. It's going to take a lot of heavy equipment, asphalt trucks, cement trucks, gravel trucks.
Objection. You're allowed to build on your property. You're allowed to have contractors come to your property to build it. There's no exclusion to that.
Right, and I'm
it's
just
not
asking-
the basis of his, and he said it's not the basis of his traffic testimony. It's not analyzed as part of any traffic study submitted to a board. I would ask the chairman, ask him to move on.
All right, would low-boy tractor trailers be able to clear the railroad bridge?
Well, I don't understand the question.
Well, heavy equipment is going to have to be brought to the site.
Correct.
heavy equipment often uses low-boy trailers.
Correct.
There's a steep incline and decline on the other side of the railroad bridge. but
Correct.
It's a short run. Can a trailer like that with the low-boy setup, I can show you a picture of a low-boy if you don't know.
Oh, I know what a lowboy is.
All right, can that clear that bridge?
It can't be over 13 feet 6 inches unless it has a special permit,
No,
and
no,
then there are different accommodations for
I'm
that.
talking about the bridge that goes over the railroad track. That's the one with the steep incline and the short overhang.
So the question is, can the truck go over the railroad bridge?
Yes, can it actually do it without scraping the bottom? It's
Well,
a
that's
low
a
boy.
different question. I can't answer that. I
But you're the
imagine
traffic
other
engineer.
buildings have been built along Homestead Road that would require that, and then it's up to the contractor to find a suitable means to mobilize his equipment to the site.
Okay, but you don't know if he can or not.
I do not know.
All right, your report states the study therefore demonstrates that the proposed development will not have a negative or perceptible impact on operating conditions at surrounding intersections. Have you reviewed the Pannoni turning radius diagrams?
I've reviewed the ones prepared by our site engineer. I don't recall Pannoni doing those independently.
Okay, well, they had some off of Willow Road and Amwell Road. And
Yeah, as I said, I don't recall Pannoni doing that independently, so I can't answer beyond that.
okay, can I show the Pannoni turning radiuses?
I don't think you're going to be entering evidence. That's testimony.
Okay. All right. Did your study count any trucks with a 53-foot trailer entering Homestead Road from Willow Road or vice versa?
I don't recall offhand. If there were trucks out there when we did our traffic counts, then they were counted.
All right, but you don't know if they were 53-foot tractor trailers?
Not off the top of my head, no. I don't.
Again, the Pannoni drawings would show what the turning radius is for a tractor trailer, a WB50 in this case, a shorter one, but off of Willow Road onto Homestead Road and vice versa. And I can't show them.
Sure. There's an ordinance now that prevents that size vehicle from getting to this site via Willow Road. So that has not been considered in our analysis in light of the ordinance.
All right, but there is the possibility of a lawsuit against that, isn't there? I heard this one in effect about the weight limit.
I can't speak to that.
Because if there is, and the weight limit is overturned, I should be able to ask about the turning radiuses at that intersection.
Well, it's an existing intersection that this applicant didn't create. And again, if there are improvements that are needed, they're called off-track improvements. And the applicant would have a pro rata fair share contribution toward those. But as a pre-existing condition, there's no obligation for them to fix it. They would continue to exist whether this site's developed or not.
Okay. All right. The reason I'm asking the following questions is that Homestead Road has no shoulders, 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, and limited visibility because of the hills. All right, the truck turning radius legend on the drawings, Mr. Ford's drawings, show a truck makes its turn at 5 miles an hour. Since they're turning onto a road with 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, isn't this a safety issue, especially with the limited view, limited visibility?
I found nothing that indicates limited visibility, and again, we've certainly discussed this with Mr. Mayhew and his associates. If we need to make a radii bigger, a radius bigger, we'll make it bigger. I mean, we can control the design of our site.
Okay, but limited visibility, I mean, there are hills.
There are hills, correct.
A car that's down in a valley and then comes up over that valley, there could possibly be a truck moving at 5 miles an hour turning there.
Correct.
Okay, and that's not a safety issue?
As long as the driver is driving with his eyes open, they will have the ability to see that truck.
Okay. All right, how long does it take an 80,000-pound tractor trailer to go from 0 to 45 miles an hour?
I do not know the answer to that.
Okay, how much distance does it take to get to 45 miles an hour?
I do not know the answer to that.
I found in the Journal of Transportation Science and Technology that heavy trucks can accelerate to approximately 31 miles per hour.
Sorry, you're providing evidence and testimony. It's questions of his testimony.
Can you find out for us how long it takes to get from 0 to 45 and what the distance is?
I don't have the answer to that, and we look at the geometry of the design and whether it's appropriate for trucks. We all know trucks take a lot longer to get up to traveling speeds. I won't
Isn't that
deny
a safety issue? Cars going 45 miles an hour, and now you have a truck slowly getting up to 45 miles an hour?
As long as the driveway is appropriately designed, it's not a safety issue. There are thousands of driveways that serve trucks.
Well, this is once it's on the road, the slow acceleration up to 45 miles an hour, because the cars coming up behind it are going to be doing 45.
And that car may have to decelerate. It's not a safety issue. It's a convenience issue at that point.
Well, it could be safety if it's limited visibility. If that car happens to come up over the hill.
Objection. We're just debating an irrelevant issue.
An irrelevant issue?
He's testified to it. He doesn't see it as a safety
That's
concern.
not a
You
safety
disagree. We get that.
Okay, fine. All right, how will tractor trailers that drop their trailer pick up a process trailer without ever approaching the warehouse affect the traffic flow or count?
I don't understand the question. Are you asking how does the warehouse operate?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Your operations guy said that a truck can come in, drop its trailer, pick up a process trailer, and leave. So that's a short-term turnover.
Correct.
All right, and that doesn't affect traffic count because it's can process quicker?
That's included in our estimates of truck trips, yes. That's how
Okay.
warehouses function. So that's been included in our projections.
Okay. All right, you're answering for Mr. Ford on the amended truck turning radiuses, correct?
Say again?
You're answering for Mr. Ford on the truck turning radiuses, the
I'm
amended
answering your
drawings?
questions if
Well,
I
no.
can.
But you're answering for his drawings, right? On circulation.
I reviewed them.
and-
Yes, I reviewed them.
Okay. All right, so the amended truck circulation plan was submitted as a replacement page, not as a site plan revision. Was there any change to impervious surface and landscaping due to the changes?
I'm the wrong witness to answer that question.
Okay. All right, in referencing the amended truck circulation plan, you said Mr. Ford has altered the design of each driveway so that the truck turning paths can occur without conflicting with, for example, crossing over the center line of Homestead Road. All right, showing the new driveway configuration, you stated, vehicle tracks and the path, its tires and chassis inscribe as it makes its turn into the driveway. It also shows the right-hand turn for a truck exiting from the westerly driveway, Building 1, as it continues its westerly path toward 206. And in all cases, vehicles maintain their lane. Can you zoom in on the turning radiuses?
No, I can't.
Dave, you know exactly where they are in this very long list.
It's about halfway up. It's under the site plan revision February 17th. And it says 62M.
Tell me when to stop if you see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't. Now I need my distance
Oh, wait,
glasses.
wait. Oh, shoot. Sorry. It's my wife's computer. Is the truck, that one right there?
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, the truck turning or the fire?
No, the truck turning. All right, can you increase the magnification maybe to 180?
Well, which point are you looking at?
The westerly driveway of Building 1. Okay, I think we can use even more magnification there. More. Okay. All right, that's good. All right, can you zoom in on the, where are we? Well, first question is, you used a WB62M here, isn't that correct?
Correct.
And that's in the Green Book. You mentioned the AASHTO.
It's a truck that's the largest truck-trailer combination permitted on the road in New Jersey.
Okay. And that's in the AASHTO Green Book, the Trucker's Bible?
No, it's a custom template because it's not in the AASHTO Green Book because they have even larger templates.
All right, well, I don't have that here, but I do have a template for a WB62 with a 53-foot trailer. And I'm wondering, can I give out copies of it so you know what I'm talking
Nope.
about? No, of course not.
Ask a question, you know.
Maybe not the one I'm looking at. I'm looking at the truck turning radius. All right. Your drawings show only the wheelbase, correct? The track of the front wheel and the chassis, the rear wheels.
I didn't prepare the exhibit, so as we start to zoom in, I believe there are two parallel lines, and I'm struggling to see it myself.
Yeah.
But most templates include the wheel path, and then the overhang due to the bumper or, the extension of the truck.
All right, well, that's where I don't believe these drawings show the overhang, which can be 2.5 to 3 feet. These only show the track of the wheels. And in fact, your testimony even said that. You said the path of the tires and chassis that they inscribe.
Is there a question? And again, we can make these radii bigger. If it's a sensitive issue for the board or their professionals, instead of being 45-foot radii, we can make them 50. I mean, this is a solvable issue.
We're 2 years into this, and we still have an issue with these turning radius.
I don't believe there's an issue, so.
Really? Well, can you trace the inside radius of that truck that's exiting up to 206?
That I can't, no.
Mr. Giannetti, you traced them before, didn't you?
Is there a question I can answer for you?
Yes, if you were to trace the radius, can I do it with a laser pointer? What was that? Can I? I can try
I'm
it.
not sure if it works on the screen, the laser pointers.
All right, let's see over here. No, you're right, it
They
doesn't.
don't show up.
All right, can I point it out then?
Sure, point. I'm not sure where the question is, but.
Yeah, take the mic with you. Hold on.
Wait, hold on. We got to get you on the mic.
If you're going to travel, you got to take the mic.
All right. The inside radius of this truck that's exiting is here, correct?
Correct.
All right. The outside radius is here. And the dotted line that you were following is there. These two jog in. They don't follow that radius. And the truck doesn't show the overhang. So isn't it possible that the overhang of the truck can cross the center line?
No, the outer line is the solid line. The inner line, the dash line, is the wheel path.
Okay, but what about the outside line?
The outside line is the outside of the bumper, if you will.
Okay, it doesn't track smoothly like the other radius. Notice it jogs up here, this whole area. Notice the dotted line jogs away from that. So this wasn't done by a template or a computer.
It was done by a computer.
This was done by a computer, and yet these two lines separate like that.
It's not unreasonable to assume that the driver will adjust his steering angle as he starts to exit the site and enter the public roadway. The trailer will follow an inscribed path, but the path of the cab will wiggle, if you will. That's not uncommon.
Only on the outside radius and not the inside?
Correct. The inside radius is inscribed by the trailer. The outside radius is by the tractor, the cab.
Okay, but it still doesn't show the overhang, does it?
The solid line is the overhang, the dashed line is the wheel path.
It doesn't match the drawings that I was using that say WB 62. But I'll take your word for that.
Can I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Help out? At the last meeting, I had brought up that our firm was having difficult time reading these due to the scale, and I think the applicant agreed that they would submit a larger scale of these turning templates, and I think that'll help clarify.
Yeah, I think I asked Mr. Ford to reach out to you to find out exactly what you needed.
All right, the turning radius of these trucks, that's the optimum turning radius, isn't it? That's plotted by the engineer to be the optimum turning radius.
It follows the cramp angle of the truck. It's the
I'm sorry, sir, I'm just the public. I don't know the crank angle of the truck at all.
that's how far the front wheels will pivot, the angle at
Okay.
which they will turn. That's what this template depicts, and it's a computer emulation based on basically measuring how trucks can make a turn, whether it's gradual, whether it's tight. And as one would expect, entering a driveway, that truck will need to execute his turn in order to proceed in a northerly direction.
All right, I still don't understand myself how one side cannot match the other side
Objection.
with radius, but
Can we please move on?
certainly. Can we go to the back of the same driveway?
When you say the back, you mean
back-
up at the building end?
Yes. Before, I'm sorry. Before we do that.
I zoomed out.
All right, is this the same explanation you're going to give me about the turning radiuses?
Yes.
Where here, notice this is a single straight arc, yet in here, it jogs this way and then it jogs that way?
Correct.
Same explanation.
Same explanation. That is the truck driver approaching the trash enclosure, and he's proceeding, I'll call it in a westerly direction, and then as he starts his turn, he initiates, I'll estimate it at a 45-degree angle, and then the trailer just continues to follow in a simple arc. The trailer doesn't have steering, so the trailer is always going to follow a uniform arc. Whereas the cab is constantly adjusting and turning, and the trailer just follows behind it.
All right, so that is the cab wheel doing those adjustments.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just going to note that there's 20 minutes left this evening, and I think there are other members of the public that are looking
Chairman,
to come up.
I'm going to ask either you extend tonight to finish the public questioning, or the public questioning ends tonight, because nothing is getting gathered from this.
I'll make that determination at that time. But I would ask to please move along with questions. And
All right, can we move to warehouse number 2 in the back? Westerly side.
please start asking your question just to save time.
You're answering for circulation around the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me how, in the double stack here, how those trailers are going to circulate?
Well, they're pulled out individually and moved as needed. And whether there happens to be not a full cab, but a yard mule or something to maneuver those in the site, that's what this allows.
All right, and you're talking about the sweep path, which is this area between the two parking spots, right? You said that's 70 feet, it's listed up there?
Again, I didn't prepare this plan. You're reading it the same as I am, but yes, it is labeled at 70 feet.
All right, but that's between parking spaces. That's not between a truck and a trailer. If a truck and a trailer is in one of those parking spaces, and this is a 60-foot parking space, with the truck on, it's going to be 74 feet.
Okay.
So 14 feet less in the corridor. And if a truck is on the trailer inside, it too is going to have it, it's going to shorten the width of the corridor. And you're still saying you have the circulation to turn trucks like this?
To back in and out, yes.
Even if there were a tractor trailer 14 feet this way and
Yes.
one 14 feet that way?
We have 130 feet between the face of the building and the first row of trailer parking. In my experience, the minimum design to maneuver trucks in and out is 110. This has an extra 20 feet of additional maneuvering area. So yes, it's standard design. In fact, it's over design.
This truck that's making this turn, is that the rear wheel of the truck?
That would be the cab.
Okay, and
The inner dimension is the trailer.
what's it doing here?
It's turning to the left and avoiding any parked trailers that happen to be there.
All right, but if there was a truck sticking out here 14 feet, it couldn't make that turn, could it?
He would wait, or he could pull
Would that
further.
cause stacking?
He could pull further to the building and extend that circle another 15 or 20 degrees to avoid a cab that happened to be connected to the trailer at that point. I'm not sure why a truck would need to make that U-turn. Most trucks, as they leave, will simply exit the loading dock and turn left or to the south. So that cul-de-sac, if you will, at the end is just to show that the truck can physically maneuver, but I don't expect that they would randomly U-turn in the middle of the site.
All right, I kind of lost track of my pages here.
Do you have another question?
I'm checking.
No, you've had 30 minutes. I need to move on if you're not prepared.
You said there'd be no stacking or queuing in the driveways, right?
Correct.
You said we have 58 loading docks in a larger building, so that no one must wait.
Well, it's whatever the plan says. If it's,
Okay.
I can't read it from here, but
All right, if no one has to wait, why do you have trailer parking spaces?
as I testified before, maybe shipping is full on that particular day and they don't want to have a trailer or a truck waiting. They'll allow him to back into one of those storage spaces and leave the site,
Leaving the trailer?
or picking up another empty one.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Yes, I know.
I suffer from that.
The mic comes off of that too. You can just hold it.
Sorry, really don't want to hold it. Okay, can you hear me?
Why don't you sit down? Have a seat. Right there.
Thank you, Sean. Merrill Bisberg, 4 Hickory Hill Road. I appreciate you leaving that up. I just have a question that I didn't have until Mr. Martin showed that. There's 2 layers, I believe there's 2 layers of trailers. If you can shift that to the left on the smaller building so you can see that, yeah.
Correct.
So they do need to use that U-turn. How are they going to get the trailers out of that area where there's 2 rows without actively using that U-turn? And how could they have both layers? I think there's 2 rows, so I don't know if they're set up for the width of trailers only or for cab and trailers, but they are planning, I think, to hook up there and leave. So there would be a lot of occasion to use that turnaround, wouldn't there?
If a cab is connected to a trailer parked in one of those 29 spaces on the west side of the building. When that truck leaves, they would turn to the right and exit. It makes no sense for them to go further into the site interior, make a U-turn to leave.
Unless there's one behind another. Am I missing something?
I think so.
There's one row, not two?
There are 2 rows.
Okay. And how does something come out of the back?
They would move the first trailer if there happened to be a trailer in front of it.
Okay, well, if you're going to move it out of the way, where are you going to move it to?
You pull it forward and then turn to the right, turn to the left, or back up, and then put the trailer back. It's like a valet that moves cars. It's just you pull one car out to get the car that's behind it. The trailer or the car waits in the aisle, and the other trailer is removed, and then the one that's in the aisle is put back in its spot.
Okay, well, it sounds like, as with a valet, you might have to go in either direction.
Well, this is a dead-end road, so the valet, when you leave the restaurant, you leave the restaurant. You don't go back into the parking lot.
Right.
You leave.
But just to get the other cars out is what I'm saying.
That's up to the valet. So if they happen to pull the trailer forward and then back it up to the north, in this instance, that's likely what they would do. We don't need to make U-turns on site. The plan shows that they can fit. Operationally, I can't conceive of why that would be necessary.
Okay. At the last meeting, and it came up again a little bit tonight, I think you testified there was, in your plan going west on Homestead Road and hitting 206, you were assuming the traffic was going to go either right or left.
Correct.
And that because there is no bypass directly from Homestead Road, that even to go north, some trucks might turn left to hit the bypass from Hillsborough Road and then turn around and go north.
They can do that.
Right.
It is longer, but they can do that.
So what is to stop them from just going straight and going past the high school to a residential neighborhood, north on Auten Road? Is it Auten Road? Yeah, and then right on Triangle and coming out 206 there.
I don't know that there's anything that prevents them from doing that other than common sense in that turn right on 206 and go north. Why go through residential areas that would be a slower route and a longer route when it's just as easy to turn right and go up the highway? I mean, my office is in Somerville. I could go to my office via Princeton. I don't think I should or would.
Well, no, many people do avoid the downtown by using that route.
Okay.
Objections, no
And,
point for
let's-
argument now.
Okay.
And also, I'm going to ask the witnesses kind of.
Certainly,
I would give him some latitude, given what's going on.
Well, we may have to continue another night, so I'm trying to get things finished.
Also, at the last meeting, I think Mr. Mayhew asked for a 1 to 30 scale from the 1 to 60 so that we would get better.
We owe him that exhibit, yes.
Okay. It would be really helpful for owed exhibits to come in when there's testimony so that we could actually see those diagrams and understand them.
Well, to be clear, this exhibit is on file and exists. They just want it blown up.
Right, because it's hard to show that the
Ms. Bisberg, next question we've established.
All right, and I think the other thing that he brought up was a turning template because there will be traffic between the warehouses, which is a pretty short throw, and it's also near the same place where trucks will be exiting and entering. So is that something that we're going to see?
I don't recall that being discussed. The warehouses don't connect.
I know. And so they're going to be in Homestead Road if they have to get from one to the other. That's exactly the point.
Again, I struggle to understand why a truck would go to one warehouse and then go to the second warehouse. They're two different businesses and operations. But if it's a common carrier, all right, conceivably they could. So they would drive from one building to the next and use the driveway that's been designed. I don't.
Okay. The other thing that was requested was amending the trip generation report to include the percentage or the number of WB50, I think that's the right term, trucks versus cars?
We don't have the means to do that. Our report has indicated truck traffic, and to the extent some of them are smaller trucks, great. But, for our discussion and what the data that I've presented, we can assume that they're all tractor trailers.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can Joe sit down as well?
If she'd like.
I think I'll take that one. Joe O'Connell, 20 White Meadow Road. I just had one question. You talked, back, somebody had asked the question about the infrastructure, and you said that that was not in your purview, but that you would imagine that it's the same, that the infrastructure that could be built would be the same as what was over the hill, the infrastructure that they have there, since it's the same zoning. And are you aware that what's over the hill is not the same zoning as this?
Objection, that wasn't his testimony.
Well, he said something about that the infrastructure
Please-
was, the problem with
place
the
it into
infrastructure would be the same as it was over the hill.
But
And that
what's the
zoning was-
question?
My question is are you aware that the zoning over the hill is different, it's light industrial, than the zoning of this? And does that make any difference to you?
I am aware that they're different zones, and it does not make a difference to me.
Okay, thank you.
Both permitted warehouses and uses that would generate truck traffic.
Okay.
Rich Garman, Winding Way, and I'm not represented by anybody else. You're testifying as a traffic expert, correct?
Yes.
So all of your comments about use and operations is just your opinion? Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
As it relates to traffic circulation?
Is it fair to say it's just your opinion, though, because you're not testifying as an operations manager or an owner of the building or a warehouse use expert?
My entire presentation and testimony is opinion.
Well, but you're a traffic expert, so you're being an expert on the traffic, but not necessarily what could be in these buildings and their operation of them.
That's fair.
Okay.
It's a warehouse.
Okay. You said in your testimony that the structure really wasn't suitable for a fulfillment center because they're usually 1 million to 1.5 million square feet. Is that accurate?
No, it's principally because it's a single-loaded building.
Okay.
And there's not enough parking.
Well, again, that's just your speculation. Is there any law that says it couldn't be a fulfillment center?
I don't know of any law that prohibits that,
Okay.
no.
Fair enough. You referenced the ITE, Institute Traffic Engineers, correct?
Transportation engineers.
Right.
Yes.
Do they have any binding legal authority with the DOT or motor vehicle or any road authority?
Well, it's the other way around. DOT actually uses ITE data in their consideration of applications.
But it's not binding. They don't have to abide by anything they put. They just use it as a reference, correct?
It's not a legal, it's not law, correct?
Okay, fair enough. You mentioned ITE document land use 150 for a reference, and then it's updated every 6 years.
Approximately.
Okay. Do you know the date of the last one that you used? When it was
2020.
last updated?
2021.
Okay. If it was 24-hour operation, was that accounted for in your mornings, like 7 a.m. entering in counts? Because if you ran a shift 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, you could possibly double that count with people coming and going at the same time. Is that accounted for?
No, we assume that the peak hour of the warehouse and its traffic would be coincident with the street peak hour, and that street peak hour is 7 to 8. To the extent the warehouse does run on a shift and those employees need to be in there by 7, that traffic would not be within the peak hour. It would be ahead of the peak hour.
I agree, if those are the hours. But we don't know that because we don't have a tenant and we don't know use. And a lot of employees adjust their scheduling so they avoid peak hours, correct? So it would impact.
Objection, he's just making argumentative statements.
Mr. Garman, these taking into consider the peak hour for when all other vehicles are on the road, i.e. commuter traffic, school traffic, that's the fixture. The other traffic is added to that. That's what he means by peak, is when the ancillary
I
traffic.
understand the peak. I'm just saying that peak could be adjusted if they change the routing, because this is, you're going to have, I don't know, if you took worst case scenario, you're going to have 226 trucks possible and 290 cars. It could adjust the peak. That's all I'm asking. Was it accounted for? We don't know what this building's going to be. We don't know a tenant.
Let Mr. Dean answer the first question.
Yes, it was accounted for. We assumed that the peak of the warehouse would be the peak of the street. If the peak of the warehouse is not the peak of the street, then our impacts are much lower than I've otherwise estimated and analyzed.
Okay, one last one, and we'll call it a night. Regardless of security gates, is it possible in a worst-case scenario there could be stacking on Homestead?
No, I don't see that as possible.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
David Brook. I am David Brook, 7 Winding Way.
And are you affiliated with any of the objectors?
Correct. You know the Groucho Marx saying, I would not belong to any organization that would have me as a member. So, no. The answer is no. Mr. Dean, your traffic report, is it okay to start? Mr. Dean, your traffic report was dated 12/22, December 22nd, 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Was it ever updated?
Yes.
The report itself or supplementary information?
Supplementary information.
Okay. So your traffic report discussed Homestead Road and all traffic going both ways from the warehouses to 206 and Homestead Road. Is that correct?
And to Willow.
Correct. Right. 206 and Willow. I think page 6 and page 10 have that information. That's correct, yes?
As I just said, yes.
Okay. That's not the case now with Willow Road weight restricted, correct?
Employees can still use Willow Road.
Correct. But the trucks can't.
Correct. And we did not assume that trucks would use Willow Road in our report.
But yet your traffic report had counts of trucks on Willow turning onto Homestead. Is that correct?
Well, we counted traffic, and I looked in the report. I didn't see that the trucks were identified. Or should I say, weren't included in the report. They were identified during the counts.
So wouldn't it be helpful, though, to the board and to the public to update this information, since now all truck traffic over 4 tons is only coming and going from Route 206?
No. Our study didn't assume they would use Willow Road anyway, so our study assumed they would go out to 206. To the extent there are now fewer trucks on Homestead and Willow because of the restriction, just means things got a little bit better.
Can you tell the board or tell me where in your study it says what you just said, that it did not consider the trucks going to Willow Road?
That's my testimony. The ordinance was adopted after the issuance of the report.
Yes, but I guess my question is, can you tell the board where in your report it says that you did not consider truck traffic going to Willow Road? I didn't see it in the report.
That's my testimony.
He's stating
He's
on the
saying-
record that he's taking care of that it's not, there's no trucks on Willow Road.
So it's not in the report?
He's clarifying his testimony. That's what he said.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dean, it is safe to say that you have been doing private traffic engineering consulting for a long time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are most of the projects that you work on, or most of the development projects, before land use boards that you testify?
I'd say 85%.
Okay. Is it also safe to state that you've evaluated hundreds of proposed developments for their traffic impacts?
Yes.
Those traffic studies are meant to inform the land use boards and the public as to the potential impact of proposed development. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Okay. Do you provide an overall rating for a proposed development? Or how do you explain to a board whether the impacts are acceptable or not acceptable?
Sure. It is a comparison of a future traffic scenario that both excludes and includes the site traffic. So we look at a before and after, say, 4 years hence, as though the project were never built. And then we look at that same operational consideration with the project built.
And at some point, you would make a recommendation, presumably, that with the project built, it's acceptable?
Correct.
Okay. So in your 1222 report, you stated on page 10 that, quote, the proposed development will not have a negative or perceptible impact on operating conditions at surrounding intersections. Do you still have that opinion now that Willow Road is restricted and all truck traffic above 4 tons must come and go from 206?
Yes, my opinion has not changed.
Okay. Mr. Dean, of the hundreds of proposed projects that you have evaluated and provided reports and testimony evaluating the traffic impacts to the community, how many of them did you determine would have unacceptable traffic impacts to the local roads and to the community, and you recommended it not be built?
That's never occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Could you maybe explain why?
Sure. When we get to a planning board process, again...
David, you're done.
I didn't ask for an explanation. I just asked for an answer.
And you got your answer.
So
The attorneys just
why
asked-
do we elaborate upon that?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
You said you were done.
When we look at it in front of a planning board, the use is permitted. We then look at the impacts of traffic getting in and out of the site as well as off-track impacts. Off-track impacts carry an obligation to contribute towards making them better. In the case of a use variance, sometimes those traffic, it can't be accommodated. Now, I will say, before it ever gets to a public forum, because we were unable to solve a traffic problem that I've recommended to the client, they abandon the project. So we go through that at due diligence. It never even gets to the public forum or an application. There have been a few select instances where I've represented a board where, not so much for a planning board, but a board of adjustment, where the traffic impacts of the proposal are so untenable that it culminates in a denial. That has happened plenty of times in my career. But I don't get to this process in a planning board without having answers.
Thank you. Okay. So we're past 10 o'clock. So
Are we done with cross-examination of Mr. Dean?
I think so.
Excellent.
Thank you for your time.
I mean, we've
members.
enjoyed you being here, Mr. Dean. Don't take it the long way.
I'll look forward to not seeing you at the next meeting.
So I believe,
Okay.
Anybody else wants, can they queue up so we know?
This is it's a microphone, sorry.
My name is Bob Hollingshead, 31 Winding Way. I'm not affiliated with anybody. When the turning radiuses, are they like a standard thing? Or is that like a perfect turn, or is there leeway for like the guy misses it a little bit, or a little bit left or a little bit of right, or how does that work?
They are a template that's designed by measuring wheel paths, either by paint or throwing water down and measuring the arcs that are inscribed, and an average is determined. There are some good drivers, there are some sloppy drivers, but a template is established that captures the majority of the drivers.
So it's not a perfect turn.
No, there's some leeway built into it for.
Do you know how much?
No, I do not. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you again.
No, thank you. Mr. Coyce, where are we in the schedule?
So I believe we were already scheduled for the 25th.
I think so.
Scheduled is the 3rd. Yes, Mr. Coyce's.
That's a much better voice.
Thank you.
That's
Mr.
a very good
Coyce's voice has changed, Mr. Chairman. This application is scheduled for the 3rd application on for the 25th. Which means at some point we will provide time for, the board will provide time for Mr. Giannetti and his client. It will not be all of it. It will probably not even be half of it, but we'll see.
And
it will depend upon what happens with application number 2. Yes, sir.
And it sounds like, given the limited time, and we have Mr. Cook, Ms. Scafone, and then obviously the cross-examination and whatever the objectors are going to present. It sounded like February 8th is likely going to be empty, provided everything goes according to plan. Could we be also scheduled for that date as well? I don't want to necessarily say empty, but reserved for something that's likely not happening.
It may be vacated.
We have a number of applications that have to get scheduled. We're still in the process of trying to find dates for different applications, but we're starting to have an issue with some dates that other applicants were not available for. So we also have a number of applications that don't have a date. So, I mean, at this point, this application has had a number of dates. Just my concern in terms of trying to administer all these dates and all these different applications, that as a staff, we're going to need some flexibility to be able to put, applications that are on. We have some applications that are not major applications, and that won't need possibly a lot of time, but we're going to need some flexibility to be able to put some of those applications on as needed. But we're still waiting for some calls back and confirmations that applications can proceed forward.
I'll only note that too because I know our planner is available February 8th. She's not available the 25th, but I don't expect we're going to get to her the 25th. And that's why I selected that
date. I
date.
get to her on the 8th either. Mr. Chairman, I said Mr. Coyce has indicated if Mr. Giannetti and his client are willing to accept some time frame on the 8th, yet to be determined as to how much or how little time that is, with the other applications going first, which, as you'll notice from tonight, I believe is going to be the plan for the foreseeable future. Then Mr. Giannetti's client will have to take whatever time is available.
And we could also, we could revisit this on the 25th as well.
What?
We could revisit this at the 25th as well.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're looking to be placed on the agenda, as Mr. Coyce has indicated in conversations he's also had with me, we have other applications who have things running who need to be heard. So I don't think, frankly, with the exception of maybe one application coming up, I don't believe that the future for any of these applications is going to be an all-nighter. So to the extent that your client gets a piece of that night, when everybody else we need to get done is done, am I wrong, David? That's basically the issue right now.
That's correct.
Then your client needs to be aware of the fact it's not going to be 2 or 2.5 hours. It could be an hour, it could be 90 minutes.
Understood. I think just given we're going on to our 13th meeting, the sooner we can get this done and get to a vote, the sooner the other applications can also be heard in a more efficient manner. And if the board's not going to schedule a special meeting, I'm sure you want to get this done.
I do, but I'm going to be straight up. There are going to be no special meetings, and even using business meeting nights are going to be very doubtful. Just because I know Mr. Coyce's office has got other work to be done, and we have monopolized a lot of those extra nights too. This is, we have 5 objectors, and we're in uncharted territory, that this is extending. But Mr. Coyce, we got to get after the other applicants to get back if
Correct.
you're waiting for them. And probably I would try to maybe only limit one of them per night.
Okay,
So that,
understood.
because we don't, because if we throw 2 on, we're not going to be able to get to any of these, these ongoing or
Understood.
continuing.
We'll definitely keep that in mind, and definitely we'll keep you posted on what we're trying to line up. We just have a number of them, and just trying to make sure that we're, within TOD's time of decisions and things like that. And we're trying to avoid a backlog. So
I get
we'll
that.
definitely keep that in mind, and try not to do it in such a way that all of a sudden it's kicking back these other applications that have already started. That's not the intent of what we're trying to do. We just have to make sure some of these applications that are deemed complete, that they get scheduled to a date. So, thank you.
All right. And I'm just going to ask Mr. Bernstein, what flexibility does the board have with regards to time limits on public
Here's the problem with time limits. Setting time limits now, 12 hearings into this, is long after the train has left the proverbial station. It's going to take however long it takes. If Mr. Gianetti's client wants to push the button at some point, that's up to them with the concurring issue that comes with it. The board has expeditiously moved these applications along, trying to juggle what was at one time 6 warehouse applications. So I think the board can continue to ask people to move the questions along and not repeatedly ask the same questions. And I think as they come up on an ongoing basis, members of the public and the objectors and the applicant are going to have to move things along as well. But it's a little difficult to say to the public, you only have 3 minutes to ask questions when we've never put that limit on before. And frankly, I think it's going to present more problems for this board than simply moving the process through. It's time consuming, it's tedious, but it is what it is, And again, applicant has some control over it. Board has some control, objectors have some control, public has some control, but I don't think we can cut off one group to suffice others. I think what Mr. Coyce didn't tell you is we do have what I'm going to characterize as probably 1 hearing applications coming. People who have, the kind of applications we used to hear many years ago.
You mean the
where
ones
they
in the empty
basically are
room?
in, make their presentations, get out, get done. So I think those have to be juggled along with the ones that haven't come in 1 hearing and not. So I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we simply let the process play itself out and see where we go. And I understand Mr. Gianetti's frustration. I think the board would like to hear something new and different, but it is what it is. And those who agreed to come back this year, you know,
No, that's fine, because I just wanted to ask a question that was probably on everyone's mind.
and I don't recommend it now or in the future. Not for, just for this application in general. So to the extent your client gets some time on the 8th, Mr. Giannetti, that's acceptable? I'm seeing a nod from out of the
Yes.
corner of my eye.
Yes.
An extension till at least the 29th of February?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, it's a motion to continue this hearing without further notice to, at some point on January 25th at 7 p.m. or sometime thereafter, and the same on February the 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. or sometime thereafter, as well as an extension of time decision to February 29th, 2024.
I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I can't make a second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Committeeman Napani.
Yes.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Chicarelli.
Yes.
Mr. Scobo.
Yes.
Vice Chair Peterson.
Yes.
And Chair Sarachi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giannetti.
Okay. Yeah. So just as a reminder, we do have our next meeting on January 25th on or about at 7 p.m. So with that, may I have a motion of adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. See everyone in a
Thank
couple of
you.
weeks.